Everyone, welcome to the regularly scheduled public meeting of September 3rd, 2019 of the Township of Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the municipal clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at mayor and council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Could everyone please stand for a salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cumming?
Here.
Councilman Oman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. Let the record reflect also in attendance Mayor Peter Calamari, Township Administrator Robert Tovo, Township Attorney Ken Poller, Township CFO Judy Curran, and Township Clerk Susan Wachowski. Reading of the total list of bills. Mrs. Wachowski.
The following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted, representing August 10th, 2019 through August 31st, 2019. Total 2018 reserve, $500. Total 2019 current, $1,305,390.20. Total capital fund, $16,116.67. Total animal control, $3.60. Total grant fund, 0. Total trust fund, $29,868.44. Total escrow account, $8,661.80.
Thank you.
May I?
Yes, Mike.
On page, I can't read it because double-sided is printed over it, but I think it's page 2. Receipts for central cashier. Have we put the central cashier in place? It's check number 37884.
I have all the codes set up. I just thought I would start it after tax season to give Joy a little time.
Okay. Thank you.
Mike, you said 37884?
37884. They're receipts for central cashier. We printed them. I just wanted to, I just noted that we had done it, so I wanted to just check the status. So thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. On page, I think it's page 5, check number 37900, T&M Associates. So I guess I'm trying to understand what these are for, and we have a bill or a line item for a principal planner, a supervising professional staff, a group manager, another group manager, and a senior professional staff. I was under the impression that COA was sunsetting and we were waiting for some last minute sort of updates and approvals, and so I'd like to understand what these bills are for and who these people are, because I mean we certainly just face off with Stan, but I don't recall seeing this many people working on our project.
I mean, I haven't looked over bills and stuff like that. But if you look at previous bills, you will find people of those ilk in his previous bills over the years. They do different things. Some of them work on spending plans. Some of them work on the zoning aspect of things. They do different things. And as far as the sunsetting is concerned, and I've heard this before, as you know, and I don't want to really get into, if you want to talk about closed session, I'll be happy to talk about closed session. I don't think it's appropriate to start talking about where we are with COA
Mike, could we,
in public.
is this This is definitely for definitely for COA, right? It's not for re-examination?
That
Color.
could-
What's that?
Is it color?
Here's your color.
It's definitely COA? Okay. Can we get a copy of that invoice, Judy? Mike, with that, can we get a
Yeah,
copy?
could we
We'll
get,
discuss
if we
it.
get copies of the invoices?
Thank you.
Before you go on, I'm sorry, Mike, Ken, the COA is part of, it falls into, I think, the legal budget, correct? Into your budget department?
Some?
Well, I think all COA does. I mean, you said you haven't seen the bills. I'm only questioning this
Oh,
because
okay.
you should be, these bills should be running through you, your approval, before anything gets paid, I assume. Because it's part of your legal budget
Did I
department.
see that? I don't remember.
Some of the bills I've gotten directly from you, so.
Yeah, I have seen, I want to say, let me correct myself, I have seen some of these bills, and maybe all of them, I don't even know. To tell you the truth, I look at the bills, I've seen who works on things, I know what's going on. So I do know that they are doing this work. I do work with the guy every day. I mean, I literally work with him every
No,
day.
I'm just saying that these should all be approved by you
Right.
because it's in your department
Right,
and that's part of our
right,
codification.
And on thinking about it, I do sign off on as the director, so I do sign off.
Okay. Can we get a copy of that, Judy, please? Sure. Thank you.
Page, I think it's page 9. There was a payment made, check number 37917. And without indicating his name, I guess is this a stipend? Is this a reimbursement? Does this gentleman get a W-2 or a 1099?
I was told that he had taken this, I think he might have been a part-time employee maybe, and took this class and then became full-time, and he was told upon employment that he would get reimbursed for that.
Oh, so it's a class?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's a class. It's an incentive we're using to retain our employees. We can't attract those that already have CDLs because they can make more money elsewhere. But we'll pay for the course with an agreement they'll stay here for a period of at least 2 years or have to pay it back.
Okay, so it is a reimbursement of an expense. It's
Yes,
not
sir.
a stipend or?
No, it's not.
Okay. On the next page, page 10, check number 37927, Amoroso. There's charges for Beach, Clark, and Gartner. Did they do the work at the firehouse, and did we get that bill yet?
For some reason, I think we had a different vendor do that, but I have to double check. But no, that wasn't paid yet.
Yeah, if we could find out who did the work there? And was that work in advance of the anticipated building of the firehouse, or was there an issue there that was
There
being
was
addressed?
diseased trees, I was told, Mike, that were taken down.
Okay.
Mr. Scuderi and I went to Beach, Clark, Gardner, and the firehouse to review what was done by Amoroso. I don't know if he did the firehouse or not, but I went to review the work that was done there. I don't know who did it.
Yeah, I don't recall if it was Amoroso
But
or another one of
Mr.
the
Scuderi
vendors.
and I
but-
reviewed all 4 locations to make sure everything was done.
Okay. Same page, 37931, general engineering for Boswell. Are they on a retainer, or is this just, I thought typically, or historically, maybe I'm misremembering, I thought most of the engineering was associated with a project, and it was billed to a project, and this seems to be a general engineering. So are they on a retainer?
Yeah, there's a combination of retainer plus billing for projects. When I reviewed this, I apologize, I didn't see this one, so let me check what that was paid for.
Because, again, I didn't, and I could be mistaken, but I didn't think we had a retainer agreement with them. I thought it was per project. but-
No, we do have a retainer agreement with them for most aspects of general engineering.
Okay. Same page at the very bottom, 37933. replace 2 utility poles. Do we know where those were, or? what
Yeah,
they
these
were?
are the poles that the fire sirens are on. One is here, one is on Calvin, I believe.
Calvin.
Okay, thank you. And that was it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Whoever prepares these, can we move the double-sided off the page numbers, please? That's my only comment.
Good idea.
Good idea, Mr.
Good
Cummings?
idea.
You have anything, Bob? Dr. Cassian?
No.
Moving along to approval of minutes, March 4th, 2019, regular meetings, no conference meeting. March 18th, 2019, regular meeting. March 18th, 2019, conference meeting. April 1st, 2019, regular meeting. April 1st, 2019, conference meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So,
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Supposed to have a presentation by the library director, but I don't see it.
I will find out what happened.
The ghost of somebody just walked in.
Maybe she's sitting at home watching television going, oh gosh.
Okay, we'll push the, we'll move on down. If Mrs. Rifkin shows up, we'll put her back into the agenda. Motion to open the meeting up to the general public.
so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. If anybody would like to come up and address the council, please come up to the podium and state your name and address.
Mayor and council, do I have a report?
No, we are not tonight. No. I don't know, Mr. Paskey, why do we have a report? Because it's the second meeting of the month.
Who's the first?
Oh, it's the first.
Yeah, it's usually done the first.
You want me?
I don't care.
We'll do them after we open the meeting up to the public then.
Well, I might want to comment on something not important. So I would do it now.
All right, so we're not going to open the meeting up to the public. Mr. Mayor, would you like to give your report?
Yeah, I mean,
Impromptu?
yeah, not so much a report, just,
No, we're going to go back, Mr. Schneider. We're going to open it up in a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
We're going to reopen it.
Okay.
I'm going to do a quick little report time.
okay, thank you. No real report, just a couple of PSAs. School starts on Thursday. Please be aware, children will be out on the roads. In connection with that, want to let everyone know we hired a new SLEO officer, swore him in this morning, Antonio Parisi. So parents will probably see him directing traffic. Please give him a warm welcome. Reminder that on 9/11, our memorial service is at 6 p.m. in the Senior Center. And two sad things to report. One is a longtime planning member, Bernie Golick, passed away, unfortunately, after suffering a long battle. I went to the wake today. If anyone wants to go, the funeral mass is tomorrow at 10 at Our Lady of Good Counsel. And we had a pretty bad accident in town today, but happy to say that all of our emergency service people really stepped up to the task and made the best of it. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Allman?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cummings?
Our sympathies to the family of those involved in the terrible automobile accident that occurred on Linwood Avenue today, which was responded to by our fire and our police, and also the folks in Texas who suffered 2 mass shootings, and I hope there's a resolution to that sort of a thing in the near future. Other than that, we're making progress in many areas. I'll be working with the property maintenance officer to tighten up, and we'll bring to you many revisions of ordinances in order. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings.
And I will bring to you and submit for your approval and many revisions of the ordinances in order that we can get our goals accomplished in property maintenance.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mrs. Osmond, because I actually had something I was going to prepare, so. Anyway, I did want to comment on a few things, most recently on some of these comments that come from social media sites. And I believe there are some residents that are just unacquainted and not entirely familiar how the complexity of the town finance and operations has changed with this council since 2016 and up till today. Some of the comments are, their surplus just sits there. Well, it's not entirely true. There was a beginning balance of 4.3 million. The council decided to use 1.5 as revenue to reduce taxes. We decided to maintain a $2.5 million balance instead of these $4 million balances, and there's about $300,000 that went back into the kitty. The council will also use $1 million generated from the school sale from DMF building, which sat idle for 20 years. We also eliminated funded unused ordinance money where we paid interest for years and never used the money cap for capital, probably $500,000 to $600,000. We also reduced unnecessary spending, bloated budgeting procedures, and unnecessary reserve buildup. Another comment was reduced taxes. Well, since 2016 up until this year, taxes have decreased 17, 18, and 19. Actually, your rate is similar to 2015. So effectively, the council has reduced your taxes for 4 consecutive years, which is probably unheard of in any municipality in Bergen County. And last, the comments of council members get paid and should be there, Mr. Bruno to do his job, elect new officials, screwballs in office, vote them all out. November is voting season. Again, it's apparent to me that some residents are unenlightened as to what actually has transpired. Many council members have come and gone along with town officials and other persons of interest with political ties and influence. Some were also paid. None of which, to my knowledge, reduced taxes 4 consecutive years, implemented proper budgeting controls to stop the buildup of surplus, used the surplus prudently, used $1 million in school money, sitting idle for 20 years, eliminated unnecessary reserve buildup, canceled funded unused ordinance money, adjusted salary ordinances where appropriate, purchased soap for employees, fixed hot water tanks in municipal building, police mold remediation, new doors, replaced flooring, lighting, and even grew grass. We all have families and jobs to attend to, and stuff happens. And yes, we do get paid. And based upon the history of our success, I suppose I can comment as to whether or not prior town officials and some employees received compensation ever showed up. If you need any further clarification, my email is on the site. Feel free to email me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Dr. Cassio?
No report. It looks like we have a lot of work to do tonight, so I'll hold it for next month. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple quick household debris pickup, bulk pickup will take place the week of September 9th on your scheduled day due to the Labor Day holiday. The senior bus, starting Tuesday, September 3rd, the senior bus will be picking up residents that are on the ShopRite list on Tuesdays instead of Mondays, since ShopRite offers a 10% discount to seniors on Tuesdays. If anybody would like to be added to the list, please call 201-664-3268. Annual Senior Citizens Picnic. The Department of Human Services will hold their annual Senior Citizen Picnic Thursday, September 5th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Van Saun County Park in Paramus. For more information, please call Senior Services at 201-336-7416. The 2019 Flu Clinic, sponsored by the Township of Washington and Northwest Bergen Regional Health Commission, will be held on Friday, September 27th at the Municipal Building from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Annual Fall Festival. The Township's Annual Fall Festival will take place on Saturday, October 5th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Memorial Field. The festival this year will feature a health and wellness theme, and there will also be a Kids Entrepreneur Corner. For further information, please visit the Township website. Email notices. Residents are invited to sign up for email notices by texting Township to 22828 and entering your email address. Also, the no-knock policy is still available for registrations for people who would like no knock at their doors. Last thing on my quick report is that Dr. Cassio and I met with Mrs. Murphy and Mrs. Collins from the Westwood Council 2 times this summer. We had some productive meetings. We're trying to bring back some services that have been taken away such as e-recycling with Westwood and recycling drop-off at Westwood. And we also wanted, if anybody would like to get back to me, we want to get the two towns together for a Memorial Day fireworks show at Cherry Field possibly. If anybody has any comments or would like to add to it, please get back to myself through my email or my cell phone on the website. That's all I have, gentlemen. Yes, now we'll open the meeting up to the public. Motion to open the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, at this time, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Frank Gozell. I live at 464 Van Emberg Ave. And the thing I'd like to talk about or address tonight is the traffic on Van Emberg. I think a few meetings ago I spoke on this and Mr. Tovo got involved with some recommendations. I believe we were going to educate, enforce, and put up some signage. As far as the education goes, we ran that flashing speed notification. I saw that there a few months ago. Maybe it broke down. I haven't seen it up by Immaculate Heart recently. That, I believe, was part of the education. The enforcement, I see a lot more black and white activity on Van Emberg, and I actually see them writing up people. So that's sort of a good sign. It slowed them down. The only problem we have, obviously, if the black and white's out there, everybody minds their P's and Q's. Once they leave, they're running back up 45 miles an hour, or even faster. And that brings me to the last thing, signage. School starting, as Mayor's mentioned. Right now, Immaculate Heart has no signage for school zone. I was out there most of the day today. Those people are going by. Again, there's no black and whites around. They're doing 40, 45 now. They're going way, way too fast for a school zone, all right? Signage would help. As a matter of fact, more speed limit signs would help. We've got to be doing something. I think Mr. Tovo is going to look into a mechanical speed limit sign that would alert the drivers as to how fast they were going. I don't know if you ever got any quotes back on that, but I'm sure they're not a lot of money. And I think the girls were out there today running up and down the hill. And I'll tell you, there are no sidewalks. And they're going up and down the hill in clumps of 5 or 6, 10. If somebody comes and hits them, it's going to be on our conscience. They come over that top of the hill and start moving down at a really high speed. And a lot of times there's enough shade on that right side under the trees where you don't really see people till you're almost on top of them. So again, that's all I have to say. Hopefully we're still working on those mechanical signs.
We are, and just so you're aware, normally there would be school zone signs there, but the school did ask that we put those pedestrian crossing signs there. That's why you're seeing those and not school zone. We do want to correct that, enhance that going into...
There's not many pedestrians crossing there because there's no parking on Van Emberg.
I understand and I agree. That's what the school requested that through the PD. That's why they're there. I've discussed with the police about budgeting next year for the electronic signs that you and I discussed.
All right, good. And the other thing I'd like to say, the DMF, I'd like to give them a compliment. We went through a summer of leaf pickups, and I think they did an exceptional job. That ought to be relayed to them. They worked hard, and they're super good, and the place is very clean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, yes, they'll appreciate that.
Anybody else like to address the council at this time? Mr. Schneider?
David Snide, 91 Windsor Circle. Hope everyone had can't believe it's Labor Day. It should be Memorial Day. Couple of things. I guess you've all heard of the video doorbell. It was in the paper that 30 New Jersey towns have deals for doorbell video access. You know, Amazon's been selling that, and the police departments have gotten involved. It was in today's paper. You could take a look at it. It was on page 3L, Tuesday, September 3rd. And Wickliffe Lake has it, and there's a zillion towns that are involved. I see a great thing for any residents in town that have that video doorbell that will approve it from the police department, because that is like a 360 type situation that can really help if we have a problem with one of the residents, that someone's taking the mail, someone's breaking in, someone's doing something. You could always go back on it, okay? And I think that we should be one of the towns on here that's in the paper today. I think it'd be a great thing. It's just another prevention that we desperately need. Next thing, very quickly, no knock on doors. Does that mean that if one of the window companies comes and gets a permit to go knock on a private property, like where we live in a condominium association, that they will not come down and solicit
Correct.
your business? So we know, is that now?
If you're on the registry, nobody should be knocking at your door.
Okay. So just register with the town?
Yep, it's on the website.
Okay.
Doesn't guarantee that they.
No,
will
no,
not.
I understand, but sometimes you get
I've
the
had
people
people
with the
knock
books.
at my door and I'm on the no-knock registry.
Okay, understand. One thing on that Vanderburg Road, is there any way that we can get, that's county, right? Or, okay. Is there any way we can get a yellow marker maybe, yellow line that I've always talked about on Pascack Road, you know, where if there's some people running or biking, which I do, that would help the situation the other gentleman brought up, that if we can just get a yellow line, so if those girls or whoever's running from the schools is doing their track up the hill, that we can get a yellow marker there to say,
There is a white edge line.
pardon?
There is a white edge line there.
No, a yellow. I meant that could stand out to say,
Yellow can only be on the left side of a vehicle. It can't be on the right side of it.
is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay. Well, we don't want anybody to get hurt. I think that's all I had. Okay, thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the council? Mrs. Osmond?
That's the first I've ever heard.
Look it up. It's in the manual uniform. Traffic control devices.
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I looked at the approval of the corrective action plan, and it looks like with all the work that is being done, said it's going to be done and ongoing, that next year we will have none of these. And I'm going to put this right home in my box and come back next year and see that there are none of the above. Also, one thing I do want to say, a central cashier was suggested by our auditors, and I'm saying 19 years ago, actually even longer than that, I wasn't even clerk. And I went to the meeting, and thank this council, it only took 19 years for a central cashier. And we have needed a central cashier. It was discussed that far back. This is not a new subject matter, and it's taken this long, but I do appreciate that. It's a good idea for the town.
Thank you, Mrs. Osmond. And thank you, Ms. Curran, for instituting it.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the council at this time? Seeing no one, do I have a motion to close the meeting to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinances under adoption of second reading. Ordinance number 19-15. Ordinance providing for various improvements or purposes to be undertaken by the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, and appropriating $389,712 therefore, constituting proceeds of obligations of the Township heretofore issued. Resolution number 19-263, authorizing second reading and opening of public hearing for ordinance number 19-15. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? No? Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSenza.
Yes. Would everybody in the public like to discuss ordinance number 19-115, 19-15? Seeing no one, motion to close public hearing for ordinance number 19-15.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSenza.
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 19-15 at second reading by title. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSenza.
Yes. Introduction, first reading, ordinance number 19-21, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 19-11, an ordinance under Chapter 55 of the Code of the Township of Washington, setting forth the rate of compensation and manner of payment of employees for the year 2019. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 19-21 at first reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. What, there was this is a change from what was presented last week.
Yes, we eliminated the recreation director part, not recreation director, the recreation part. What's that?
Summer rec coordinator.
Summer rec coordinator from it, because it hasn't been resolved yet. So we're just moving forward with the one title so she can be compensated correctly.
Okay, there was discussion on the other position about two types of compensation, a pre-season work and for the regular season, or I guess pre and regular,
Yes.
and what applied to which and how much was,
We haven't received that, right? We don't have the answers to that. That's why it was removed from this.
Yes, correct. The coordinator, after the summer rec program, took his vacation, so that delayed some of our research, but we'll have it next week or two for the next meeting.
so we don't know what he was paid for or why he was paid and in what category?
Again, I'm going to say, we're still looking into those things.
Did he receive an increase already?
Still looking into it.
I think the term that you had used when speaking of me was outright appalling, and that's pretty appalling that, how many weeks on are we that we don't know?
Does the CFO know if we've given an increase yet?
That I do not know.
The administrator know?
No, I don't.
So we don't know if we've given an increase to this gentleman at all, or he's still at the old rate?
Well, I think the confusion lies with how the money was allocated for regular season and preseason work, and that's really what has to be ironed out, so we have a better accounting of what he got paid.
And who allocated it?
What's that?
Who allocated it? Who did the allocation of the
It was
funds?
allocated to the normal budget, but when we reviewed the budget with the employee, he had never heard of those categories of payment, so we need to iron all that out.
So I guess this is just moving forward for the one position, Mr. Ullman, correct? Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSenza.
Yes.
Can
Resolution,
I just make one other comment on that, Mike? I just want to make sure the residents know that the mayor and the council are not coming first to get these salary increases, as I also read in social media, that we were going to be first on the list to get increases. I guess we're not getting them, huh? Joke.
oh, well, yeah, I was like, what increase?
Yeah, exactly right.
Yes, what increase?
Just checking, thank you.
Okay. Resolution number 19-264, authorizing publication of ordinance number 19-21 and schedule a public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cummings?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSenza.
Yes. Resolutions under consent agenda. All of the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution number 19-255, authorized refund of recreation fees, lacrosse registrations, DACIC in the amount of $120. Resolution number 19-265, authorized refund of recreation fees, cheerleading fees, Massoud in the amount of $115. Resolution 19-266, authorized refund of recreation fees, cheerleading fees, Esposito in the amount of $115. Resolution number 19-267, approval of the corrective action plan for the 2018 audit recommendations. Resolution 19-268, authorized submission of Chapter 159 budget amendment for matching grant to Bergen County Open Space Trust Fund for construction of bocce ball court at Senior Citizens Park, fiscal year 2018. Resolution number 19-269, authorized resolution providing for the combination of certain issues of bonds for the Township of Washington and the County of Bergen, New Jersey, into a single issue of general bonds aggregating $7.25 million in principal amount. Resolution 19-270, authorized resolution determining the form and other details of $7.25 million general bonds of 2019 of the Township of Washington and the County of Bergen, New Jersey, and providing for their sale. Resolution 19-271, authorized refund of redemption of certificate in the amount of $22,641.70 plus premium in the amount of $27,500 for a total of $50,141.70 for 1115 Linwood Avenue, Block 2502.03, Lot 2, tax lien, delinquent 2017 taxes. Resolution number 19-272, authorized refund of overpayment of Q3 2018 property taxes, 288 Beach Street, Block 4408, Lot 11, in the amount of $281.29. Resolution 19-273, authorized refund of overpayment of Q4 2019 property taxes, 94 Sussex Road, Block 3407, Lot 14, in the amount of $500. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Is it possible to pull some of these?
Sure, Mr. Ullman. Which ones would you like to pull?
Actually, I'd just like to pull 267.
267, okay.
I was going to pull that as well.
So we have a,
May I-
what's that, Mr.?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
There was some discussion and question regarding the fact that some of the athletic fees, the recreation fees, had been paid by credit card, and
The
there were...
refunds. The refunds?
And are the refunds including that credit discount, that credit charge, or are...
It's the $25 fee, so hopefully that covers it, because we're charging a $25 refund fee. So
Okay.
hopefully in that 25, so
that takes care of that?
yes.
Thank you kindly.
So we're voting on everything. Mr. Ullman and Dr. Cassio have asked for resolution 19-267 to be voted on separately.
And I just wanted to discuss 268.
267 and 268.
Yeah. I just want to know what the amendment was.
So gentlemen, motion is on the table, second is on the table for all resolutions except for 267 and 268, which we'll discuss afterwards.
Yeah, can
Roll-
I just a comment, I'm not pulling anything, just a comment. When we have these resolutions, 269 and 270, for multi-million-dollar resolutions, is there a way to, like, pull these out and put them somewhere so that they're separated from these guys versus, because we're doing this big, we all consent to all of this stuff, but there's some big numbers here for discussions. I don't know if you can do
pull
that.
those out.
No, I know, but I'm talking about in the future, like the big numbers that pop up. I don't know if it can work that way or not. You know what I mean?
We can group them separately.
Okay.
Put threshold on. Anything
Yeah, I mean,
above
it's just,
X,
it's big
you
stuff
want-
that we
No,
all...
big stuff we should group separately.
Yeah, okay.
So moving forward, Mrs. Wachowski can group those separately. So everything, gentlemen, except for 267 and 268. Motion and second, Mr. Roll call.
I'm sorry, we have Mr. Bruno was questioning. We did have a motion. We had a motion roll call.
Yep.
Yeah, Councilman Bruno.
Yes.
Councilman Cassidy.
Yes.
Councilman Cumming.
Yes.
Councilman Ullman.
Yes.
Council President DeSantis.
Yes. Mr. Ullman, you had asked for 267 to be pulled?
Yes. I'm just finding the,
You want it? Here.
I have some notes on it. I'm sorry, but thank you.
Not at all.
Crap. Sorry, gentlemen. The,
There's 9 corrective actions, right? That's what we're
Yeah.
looking at, Mr. Holmes?
so, the corrective action 1, finding number 1, general ledger and subsidiary ledger for tax overpayment should be reconciled. The new CFO has already corrected this, and it was implemented immediately. So that addresses the exception, the historical exception. Who's responsible for this going forward?
Well, what should be happening is that the
Gotta
tax-
speak into the mic
Okay.
here.
The tax collector should be given a monthly report to the CFO, informing her as to what's being transferred as overpayment, what's being refunded as an overpayment. And then that would then be booked to the general ledger by the CFO, and that historically wasn't done here for a couple years.
Okay, so the CFO, meaning you, would react to a report that's provided by the tax collector.
Yes.
And in terms of the breakdown that was discussed here, was the information not being recorded to the ledger, or was it not being prepared to record?
Well, there was no reporting done, so I think the auditors came in and they more or less, they ran the reports and they had to actually put something in the financial statements. But when I went back, I reconciled. There was a lot of different issues. Like I said, there was no reporting of transferring of overpayments to the CFO. They were all handled differently on the general ledger side. So I had to reconcile all the tax side and the general ledger side.
And the general ledger is now reconciled?
Yes.
And on the tax books, are those overpayments properly reflected?
Well, my recommendation is going forward, I spoke to the tax collector about it, and I told her what she should do is have a monthly report to me and actually tell me what she's doing with the overpayments. It should be done on a monthly basis. Here it was done like every 4 months, 5 months, quarterly. It should really be it should be done every month.
And have you made that recommendation not only to the tax collector, but to the administration?
I don't know if administration would be involved with that. I don't think they would really.
Well, do you have oversight of the tax collector?
I think I'm supposed to, but I don't really know if I do. I mean,
Okay,
I'm not director of finance, so I don't really know if she reports to me, but I'm just trying to get the tax records and the finance records straightened out.
I appreciate that. What I'm trying to figure out, though, is the auditors have identified a situation. It's been corrected historically, and I'm trying to see if we have a plan to correct it going forward. And if you and the tax collector are agreeing to something, and it's not within your power on either side to do that, I'm asking, is the administration and the mayor supporting this process, and can this be put in place?
While we haven't had this discussion as of yet, I'm in agreement that makes sense. So we will discuss it further.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Holmes?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Interfund,
What number is that?
number 3. Do we know where we stand on current interfund outstandings? And, because I know you gave us a report. The second question is, do we have a process again in place to ensure that these are reconciled and going forward?
I've been doing that. I've cleared them all. I just have one I'm questioning. There was one interfund for $9,200 payable for LoSAP, and it goes back to maybe 3 or 4 audits ago. I actually called the company, and she has no record of it being owed to them. And she said it could be that maybe people didn't send in their paperwork, but I'm of the opinion that if they don't have the paperwork, perhaps I shouldn't pay it. I'm going to hold off and see where that stands, because we may not actually owe it. That's the only one that's outstanding right now.
And would that imply, if it's a LoSAP payment, that a credit, an activity credit, for lack of a better term, was not paid?
What it usually means is that people didn't put in the proper paperwork to qualify. That's
Okay.
what it normally means.
do we know if are the fire and ambulance LoSAP accounts, are they
I don't know
run
which
through?
one in particular, but I think the person who was doing that actually has a list, and I'm going to get that list and see where it stands, because it does
Okay.
go back about 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Can you keep the council up to date on that?
Sure.
Thank you. Number 5, account payable subsidiary ledger should be reviewed for aging and completeness prior to cancellations. Would that apply also to accounts receivable? The audit speaks specifically to accounts payable. I'm asking the corrective action that you're taking, is that being done for receivables as well, if we have any?
Well, the accounts receivable that we have, the majority here, of course, is taxes. So that's reviewed when tax payments are received, right after the tax quarter delinquent notices go out. And then you have your tax sale, so that makes you collect your accounts receivable. We do have some revenue receivables. Usually we watch, in other words, whether the cable franchise checks have come in, if the sewer bills went out and those payments came in, basically anything revenue, recreation fees, so on, they're monitored all the time to see if they're coming in.
Okay, and would any grant receivables be captured?
I would definitely, actually, I have a list of those that I'm actually monitoring right now.
Okay,
As you probably know, in the last bond ordinance, we're supposed to be getting $111,000 for DOT, and that's on my radar.
okay, thank you.
Just to tap onto that for a second, the overtime money that we bill PSNG and et cetera for road work from the police, there's a lot of money that's due. Is that set up as a receivable, or is that coming right away for the overtime?
Well, actually, I think it's being handled a little differently now. I think in the beginning, we were actually asking for payment up front, but I don't know if we're doing that right now. I think that might have changed.
So we don't know.
I think, Mr. Tova, I don't know if you want to answer that. I think we've changed that procedure. Right,
I'm
with
sorry,
the-
what's the question again?
The question is if we're getting reimbursed for the police overtime work on, when they have to go out where the road is being constructed, et cetera, if that's a receivable, or we're being paid up front, or do we have money outstanding from PSE and G and whomever it might be?
The only company that typically or was paying escrow front was Suez. PSE&G does not. We bill them as we go, as well as most of the other, or all of the other large utilities. If we have smaller companies that we don't have an established relationship with, yes, they put money up first. And all the money flows through the police pay trust fund.
And is that trust fund, I think there was a bit of a, not a disagreement, but perhaps a lack of clarity. Are the outside billing trust funds fully reconciled at this point?
I don't believe they are.
Okay.
I think the two people handling them, I think they actually had different balances, and I think I'm going to be the one to try to reconcile them, because I don't know if they're getting anywhere with those two accounts.
You know when the last time they were reconciled?
I'm not really sure.
And in terms of timing, I would imagine that the officers who performed the duty are looking for their money immediately.
Yes.
So how are we funding that if there is none? Are we running it through the trust and hoping that the money's there?
My understanding is now, the way it's working is that once we're billing them, since they get paid once a month, that the money's supposed to be in time in order to pay them.
We've had no issue with the funding being there to pay the officers, but if the money was not there, they would have to wait on payment.
Okay. Thank you. That was it for me.
My question, going on to 268.
Well, let's vote on,
Can I just ask on number 9? Well, there were two things. Number 9 is we're opening bank accounts. I don't know how we open bank accounts under the township without the proper paperwork and signatures. This is beyond me.
No, that actually was open. The thing is, That was open, and the person who was in charge was myself and someone else, and we signed off on it. However, the auditor said what he actually wanted it to he wanted to have a higher approval, maybe perhaps have the council approve it. I don't know if he's done that before, that's what, he wanted something high, for a higher level. And also what happened was, this was running through the police department, they had several accounts like that, and he wants it all running through me, so I've taken care of all of that, it's all running through me now. It's all set up on a separate fund and everything else.
So who reconciles those accounts?
I do.
You do. And then there was something else, I don't know where it is, whether it's here or not, but the rec department was issuing refunds without the authority of the administration or yourself, I assume?
Yes, what happened was, in the past, the person who was doing recreation just actually did an online reimbursement, like say you're going on with your credit card and you're actually, you're applying for the program, they were doing the refund the same way. So he was just following suit, and the auditor recommended that it not be done that way, that it go through resolution.
And has anybody checked the refunds to the credit cards to the person who's receiving it?
Well, it's not being done that way anymore.
Okay, but we never really checked the refunds to who received the refund?
Well, actually, when you get the printout from Community Pass, it actually shows you who's getting the refund.
Okay.
If you use Community Pass for a refund, you pay the fee again.
And you don't deduct that $25 or whatever it is.
But if you cut a check, it would cost you
Couple
probably
dollars.
$40 to cut a $25 check, so you're probably better off paying a $3% fee, or whatever the fee is. Just saying.
We have $25, maybe it should be more, Mr. O'Neill.
Well, that certainly could be, but I don't think we should give any refunds.
Motion to approve Resolution 19-267, approval of corrective action plan for 2018 audit recommendations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
And this will all be completed by year end?
Definitely year end, but it's gonna be ongoing, it'll just like.
No, I understand. I get that. But by December, these comments will disappear?
They're almost all gone now.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good work. Good job.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Con?
Yes.
Councilman Elman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Dr. Casco, you had 268 removed?
Yeah, just on 268, is that just a clerical thing that you have to go make it a revenue to appropriations on that, Mr. Tovo, or how does that work? Or is that resubmitted?
You talking about the grant?
The grant, yeah.
Yeah, the 159.
No, what happened was that the actual grant called for a matching grant
Right.
by the town, and that was never done,
It wasn't done.
way back when.
So we're playing catch-up.
So I had to do it that way. I had to have the 30,000 that we were getting from the county, and then the
Right.
30,000 that we have to match, and I have to raise it in next year's budget, and it has to be done this way.
Okay. Do you know what that slipped through the crack, any idea?
Well, it was from 2017, so I guess whoever was supposed to be working on grants and
Okay.
finance
Didn't happen.
didn't do anything.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on 268? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Con?
Yes.
Councilman Elman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next regularly scheduled meeting will be Monday, September 16th, 2019, beginning at 7:30. Going to conference agenda. Mr. Tovo, the project tracker, please.
Yes, Mr. President, I'll give you the updates as I have them. Road program, we're still working on the final RFP that should be completed this week. No update on the intersection, 88 curb cuts. Still working on trying to contact the contractor directly on this. I'm still being told by their office that it's scheduled to be done in the fall, but I'm hoping one of the owners can confirm that for us.
Will any PSE&G work? Because I know they came up Ridgewood with gas mains, so luckily we didn't pave it. Are there any more, is there any continued work of gas mains?
With PSNG,
Yeah.
there is still some work done, but we're coordinating our road program and other projects around that, so one won't impact the other, unless positively as far as paving goes.
Okay.
Class 7 dump truck, POs being prepared for both the truck and the body, both under state contract. No change on the Class 5. The breathalyzer. The radio system, we are currently testing radio supplied by the county. There may be an opportunity to utilize the county system while still maintaining our own dispatch. So we're checking the viability of that. Renovation of DMF, no further update there. Basketball courts, once again, the RFP should be ready to go out this week.
Mr. Tova, I'm sorry, can I just back up to the radio system upgrade?
Yes.
And I probably should know this, but didn't we do a RFP, or didn't we engage a company to assist us with this at some point?
We did. That company has been very helpful in evaluating our current system as well as the state system, but to actually test the radios, that's got to be done in the field by officers, otherwise we'd be paying that consultant much more money than we are. We originally received information that to go on the county system, we'd have to go with their dispatch. That turned out not to be true, so it was worth looking at and evaluating them as a third option.
So, because this has been on here a while, and I know at the back end, once it's complete, that there is probably going to be a big bill one way or the other for the purchase of the equipment. Is it possible to just understand where we are with the three options, if there are, or are there three? There's completely new system, there's a state, there's a county.
There will be three once we're done with this phase of it. Each one will have a price tag associated with it. We have numbers for both the state radio system and upgrading our local system. We now have to compare that to both the viability and the cost of county radio. So
Okay.
yes, we will be coming back to the council with those three options.
And is the county option the last option that is being evaluated?
Yes, sir.
In, is the current radio system, is it going to be sunset at any point? Or is it, I know it's an older system, but is there going to be a lack of support? Is this going to have to be an actionable item December 31st?
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you.
No more updates on that page. Going on to project page 2.
I just have, I'm sorry, Bob, one question on the signage.
Yes.
I know we're working on signs, but when I see signage, we were looking at new stop signs. I think 2 years ago, I talked about a sign on Ridgewood Boulevard East. It says caution children, and the thing is it's just rusted, it's brown, you can't even see what it is. And then there's also, I was looking the other night when I was driving down Jackson, at the end of Jackson, I'm not even sure what the name of the road is, but it's where those new houses are. On Jackson end, you go left or right. There's a house there, and there's a nice yellow arrow that tells people don't crash into the house, but that's kind of faded. It just, I can see somebody just going right into it at one time too, so. I don't know where we are with all the stop signs.
We have purchased a great deal of stop signs, and we're working on them as we have the availability of crew. This particular line item here pertains to the upgrade of our welcome to Washington signs and signage for the building. Stop signs were funded out of the current budget.
Correct.
From the road
So we spent
department?
about an equal amount on those signs.
Okay,
And there's a lot of new stop signs
There
and street
is.
signs up all over town.
okay.
And whenever we pave a new road, we make sure we do all the new signage along with that.
Okay.
Page 2 under projects, no update on Memorial Field. The grant writer has met with all the department heads. I am planning to meet with him this week and set up a meeting for next steps once we've now identified where the priorities and the objectives are. One quick update on the town hall lighting. The contractor there was having issues with school projects, which had to be done by this week. Once they're done, our project is next up on the list. WCTV upgrades, as you can see, the installation is underway. That should be wrapped up shortly. And courtroom upgrades, I'm sorry, are also part of that. Just looking at some final pricing there. On the flags, we got the wrong poles, so the new ones that were correct size ones are in now, so they'll be picked up this week. Police have ordered their new computer monitors, and I'm working on pricing on the bleachers. Again, should be completed by the end of the week.
Just one other question on the, I think when we received our budget or the financials for August, and I don't think the police department has purchased their 2 vehicles yet, have they?
They have not.
Are they planning on it?
I just got the information from them last week before I was off, so I'm reviewing that this week.
Do we have a list for the grant writer? Do we have have they presented us with a list, understanding that it has to be prioritized? Do we know who's asked for what at this point?
In general, yes, we do, and that's part of the next step. Prioritize both the need and the availability of grants for those purposes. So I think by our next meeting, we'll have some substantial progress on that.
Okay, is it possible, understanding that there may not be a grant available, but the need still exists, that we can get the full list of wants from the departments and then evaluate that if there's grant money or if it needs to be considered for budgeting in 2020?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Okay, thank you. The other question on town hall access control. So this caught my eye, and I had called Judy earlier in the week, or last week, I should say. The general comments when we talked about contracts and agreements required to be advertised, we had a discussion, and the town hall access control, there was a question if it exceeded 40K and was required to go out to bid, have contracts issued, and follow that type of guideline. And it seems like the contract or the project is now under 40,000. Is that correct?
There were a number of working estimates from a couple of different companies on this project, most of which were of the enterprise level, which was going to be in the area of $90,000. So we started to scale back and look at other options. That brought the number down. Looking at our locking hardware, we had some options there. So we kept driving the number down. So now we are below that number based on the 2 estimates from the 2 companies that we are currently working with.
Okay, so I guess my concern is that we didn't put this out to bid. We didn't receive bids. We're working on contracts that I don't know if they've been reviewed by legal. We are sort of chipping away at it so it falls under a specific threshold so it can move forward. So if the project costs $90,000, we should have probably gone out to bid. We should have had a bid review. We should have specifications. We should have POs. I mean, honestly, I feel we should have a lot more rigor around this, and we don't have that rigor. And we're finding a way to get it under a number that requires that rigor. And that's based on my understanding of the situation. That is, my reading of what's going on. It seems like we're trying to avoid doing things a certain way, And that 40K threshold is an important number in that type of enforcement.
I agree. My comment on 90,000 was in regard to some of the first solutions we looked at, which were wireless handsets and things of that nature that would have driven this project up into that range. So yes, we have been trying to drive the price of the project down to save the taxpayers money on this. But I will take a second look at this to make sure that everything is where it needs to be.
That's,
And I appreciate that, but I think what Mike's trying to get at, if we're trying to get the best system for the money, you have to go out to bid for these things, not start at 90 and then just chopping stuff off a project just to get it under $40,000. That's not the way you do business. That's wrong. You want to go out to bid, get your specs, what you think the town needs for that project, and then get sealed bids so you can get the best number you can. It's like me going out and buy a car. Listen, I want that $20,000 car, but let's take the radio out, let's take the power seats out, so I can get it under $10,000. That's not how you do business. That's wrong. The whole process of doing the system was done incorrectly. And that's not the way it's supposed to be done. Am I correct, Mr. Ullman?
I believe you are. I mean,
And that's not how it works, Mr. Tovo. If there's a process that the town's supposed to take, you do the process. Not trying to squeeze out the process so it works, so you don't have to go through the hoops. The hoops are required for a reason, not to avoid the hoops, to do the hoops. So you get what the township residents require and need for the right price. And this happens.
And for the right price.
This is not an isolated incident.
no, so
Excuse my frustration, I apologize. I'm sorry.
So we should have had, in my opinion, a bid pack should have been prepared. It should have gone out to bid. And when we received bids for $90,000, we could have assessed if that's an appropriate amount or not, and decided, do we want to spend $90,000 to secure the building, or is there a less expensive option, and gone out and had it rebid with that less expensive option. Again, I feel that we're at, the 40,000 threshold we had crossed, and we are finding a way to get it under 40 to avoid this. So if we were to gather all of the payments associated with this project, would it exceed 40? I'm guessing it probably would. And therefore, it should have been bid. And I don't know why it wasn't. And perhaps the mayor can explain why it wasn't.
I cannot explain it offhand. Mr. Tovo said he would look into it and see if things are done correctly and report back to the council. So that's the answer for right now. And as far as, Dr. Cassio, you said that you don't think it's an isolated incident. Do you have any others that you believe are happening like this? I don't like generic statements thrown out like that.
If you want me to go back in the history that I've been on the council, I'll find some incidences, if you'd like me to.
I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. It's not the first time. And I'm not just blaming your administration. It's happened in the past this way. Okay? And it needs to end here and now.
Okay, John.
The other question I had on the courtroom upgrades, do we know what those, what that pricing is? And is it strictly for holding court here in this chamber?
Well, as far as my comments go on the metal detector, that would only be needed for court.
So prior to your arrival at the town, the former acting administrator had reached I don't know if it was an agreement or had discussions about doing court in Paramus. And I guess my question is, if this, depending on what this number is, and if that still exists for Paramus, do we want to revisit that process, or do we want to move forward with this? Because
Well,
I
I
don't
think
know
we did revisit or evaluate the option before us, and everyone felt that keeping our court here, streamlining the operation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
was
had
it?
discussed we had discussed going to Paramus.
Yes.
And then we had follow-up discussions that when Ms., I can't think of the woman, Mrs. Lassini came back with some proposals which made it work by changing some things around to keep it in township with these improvements included in that number in her proposal.
With these?
It did include improvements required.
Yeah, I don't recall the exact price of the metal detector, but it's under $10,000. It wasn't the type of item that should solely drive us toward a shared court.
But I think the changes Mrs. Lassini made outweighed it would have been a cost increase with the proposed changes she made in the department.
Okay.
With, I guess, was it hours? Off the top of my head, Mike, I don't remember exactly. But whatever it was, it made it beneficial to keep it in township.
Okay.
And in the history, we've tried doing court with other towns, and it seems like we do it at a pretty effective rate here. I know we tried to go to Tri-Bar up in, what's it, Park Ridge, Montvale, and what was that? Woodcliff Lake. We tried to, piggyback with them, and doing it with Westwood, and it just seemed we were always coming up with a pretty good number.
Yes.
Okay.
But I think her proposal did include the upgrades required to put us into compliance.
If they did, then I don't recall that, so that would be great.
Sue, moving on in ordinances and legislation.
Mike, one question.
Oh, sorry.
Regarding this $40,000, whatever it is, I'm not too familiar with it, but don't we have a QPA now? Is the QPA supposed to handle this or no? I'm not familiar who deals with this. It should be.
He could give a review on it if necessary, but hasn't gotten to that point yet. We've only done wiring so far.
But let's just say it's $90,000 and we all agree. Is that a QPA thing? Is that?
No, that would be a bid thing. We have to get a bid on that.
Okay.
And, one other thing, can we add the trees to the back? Do we know what we're doing with that?
It's on the agenda.
I believe it's on here.
It's on the agenda below, Mike.
All right.
Community parking, follow-up of the draft ordinance. Sue, you wanted to put that on?
Yes, after the last meeting and the rough draft that was presented of what we felt should stay in and be removed or added, we've cleaned up the copy, we've given it to you for review to see if there's any other changes that you would like to see, if you're in agreement. The only other thing that we did not put on there was just if a consideration of replacing tags. The dogs we added in, the $2 a tag, so that this year we only had 3. I don't know if you want to add that in or you just want to leave it go. We're paying $100 for a year.
To do what? I'm sorry?
Get a replacement, if they lose their commuter parking, like somebody left it in a car, in a glove box, sold the car, or couldn't find it, we've heard it a few times, not many. That's the only other thing that I would put on the table. Other than that, if you're okay with the way it is, we'd like to put out an introduction at the next meeting and have it adopted in October in time to mail out and get ready for 2020.
So what do you want to do, reduce the fee if they lose it?
No, don't want to reduce the fee.
We made revisions to this, Bob. So.
Yeah, you just have to, we tweak it to what we actually do.
The only thing I saw was this one. That.
Ask Mr. Pollard.
Mr. Pollard, is this one mean anything, this one quotation mark?
One with the,
No, basically what it is just one, and the quotation mark is the substance of what goes into the ordinance. That's the way it's set up. That's the way general code was. That's what it's for.
Okay.
And if you'll notice at the very end of it, there's an unquote, right? Before the usual.
No, I don't see the end sub.
That's what confused you, Mike. There's no end quote.
If you look at, there certainly is at the end of number 42, there's an unquote after the word vehicles. Number 2, 3, and 4, are just not part of the ordinance.
Okay.
That's great if you know what it means. That's the normal aspect, that's the normal design. And the reason for that is so the general code
Can put it
knows
in.
what goes into the code. And those last two paragraphs do not go into the code. This is the substance of the ordinance.
Gotcha.
Do we have to speak to the option of parking at the bank? Because that is an option, correct?
It was an overflow option, but I think that, since it was temporary right now, I don't think it was something that, we don't number the stalls. It's first come, first served, which we are very, very explicit. Only until we opened up that option do we then, when people come in and say you have the option for an overflow, but go to the parking lot first of the firehouse. That's where you need to go first. Don't just go to the bank. So it's up, if you want to add that, we can. That's entirely up to you as a council.
Well, the bank is temporary, so I don't
Yes.
think he could take that anytime. We have that agreement. He could turn around tomorrow and say, no more bank, so.
And that could be changing also.
Well, this is, we call it the firehouse, but we're issuing a parking permit to park for commuters. Commuters can park at the firehouse, and they also have the option to park at another facility that's not town-owned.
Yes.
At-
And we don't have any control over it.
We don't, but do we need to speak to it in our,
I don't think so.
okay.
So gentlemen, if you can get any comments back so we can put this on the agenda for the next meeting?
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Casco, item number 2, Deputy Treasurer.
Oh, okay, yeah, I just didn't know how to list it, but I want to revisit, how we pay vouchers in town, because if we look right now through our present code, we have 4 people that can sign vouchers, sign checks. We have the Township Treasurer, Director of Finance, Deputy Treasurer, and the Mayor. We don't have a Township Treasurer. We do not have a Director of Finance. We do have a Mayor, Dr. Pete, and we do have a Deputy Treasurer. And, I always like to put some safeguards into this. And I think the biggest safeguard when we're talking about writing and signing vouchers and paying checks is to have someone who is responsible in a way that they could probably be penalized. And in our former section that was revised before 2015, we had a CFO who holds a license. I would like to reintroduce the CFO back into that mix. So I have some oversight into how bills are paid off the voucher system. And that's just something I think we need at this point. Until we get a treasurer or a finance director, I think we should add a CFO back into that oversight in paying
So you want to amend 15-03 again?
amendment. Add a CFO in there, because she or he holds a license, and I know people, when they hold a license, they're very, very careful. Things might not get paid that shouldn't get paid, and they would double check things. And it's not any reflection on this administration. It happened in the past.
Talk into the mic.
It happened in the past. I just want to, stem future possible problems with the addition of adding a CFO. And I'd like to have the mayor or the administration appoint the treasurer and the director of finance, since we don't have them at this point. Hopefully we can get those soon, so at least those people can be on the roll for doing those vouchers and checks. So tell me what you think.
Didn't we
Sleep on
appoint
it.
Judy as the Director of Finance?
No, we don't.
We never did it? Is that based upon the new codification? Because I thought the new codification had a CFO signing everything.
No,
No, it does not.
Okay. That's the new codification?
1503 is the latest.
1503 is the newest
I
one.
was under that impression.
It was revised from the 1982 statute. That was in your packet. That was this one, Administration of Government. There's 5 or 6 pages. It's on, the section looking at is on page 4 of that, section 3, and that's what this basically changed in 2015. So give me your thoughts, tell me what you think. If you think it's a good idea, great. If you think there should be something else, that's fine. I just think, it's always better to have more checks and balances, especially if someone holds a license that has potential to lose it if something goes wrong.
Thank you, Dr. Cassio.
Mike, may I just ask Judy a quick question?
Sure.
Judy, in our conversations, I thought you said you can sign checks. Is there anything at another level that would supersede this ordinance?
I actually thought that I was treasurer,
Well, first of
Oh.
all,
and I
this
signed
ordinance
checks.
doesn't exist
Oh.
anymore.
so,
I'm sorry?
This ordinance doesn't exist anymore.
Didn't we change the
I
codification or
mean,
no?
the codification-
2015?
The codification redid our entire code. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if I put this in here, but this is not applicable anymore.
But is that incorporated?
No, it's not. I
This
mean,
is not
it's
incorporated?
It's not incorporated. It's not in the, it's not the code anymore. The code is section, chapter 7, Department of Finance, that's the code.
So that this 1503 no longer exists.
Right, and nor does any of the other ordinances that you had previously that were part of your code. All those ordinances
They weren't wrapped,
prior to the court, to the codification,
They
were
were-
were changed.
they weren't wrapped up in there?
Altered, changed.
Okay. Well, then
So,
I
mean,
must miss
I will
something.
say this, that doesn't mean
You
that
can't.
you can't change what you have.
Well, let me go back-
And if
let me
you
go
want
back to
somebody- Let me finish it. If you want somebody to sign a check, you can put that into the code.
Sure.
So I'm just saying, I don't.
I just had Sue pull these two for me. I didn't look at the actual code, okay? I just went back knowing that it was there. So I will go back and look at the new code right now and see how it reads.
Sure.
And if we have to
then
amend
if you
it.
want to change, I mean, you have the ability. to
Sure,
change.
sure. But that's all. I'm just looking for another safeguard. That's all.
That's how I took it. I just want to let you know.
Well, thank you.
Steve, I'm sorry, just taking a quick look at that
Sure.
expense thing. In the new one, under number 3, it says and countersigned by the CFO. So I just
Okay,
became
all right.
aware of that, yeah.
I'll look through it again.
The whole finance procedure, in terms of who reviews and signs, was changed with the codification that we got last year, whenever we got it, and that was part of the big change.
The CFO?
Yeah.
Okay. I will look through it again one more time.
Thank you. Rose Court, New Jersey, Title 39 applied. Sue, we got a request.
Yes, we have a request. There was a request through the Engineers Department about getting some reimbursement monies, and beforehand, there was issues with Title 39 that were written in an email from Captain Hackbarth before he left. They're requiring certain signage for no parking. In the engineer at the time, I shouldn't say at the time, the planning board engineer had put in his letter, his recommendations of what should have been done according to Title 39. There was a resolution that was passed mentioning Title 39. As you can see, the letter is requested asking to have Title 39 applied, but it needs to go through the council as an amendment on your ordinance,
So,
if you're in agreement.
so Ken, Rose Court is a private street. It is not a township road. We are not we're just giving the ability for an officer to go on to private property and give a ticket for,
Very, very similar to condominiums or any
Okay.
other private places. It just gives the officers the ability to enforce the traffic laws on private property. They're asking for it, you have to pass a resolution. If you agree, you pass a resolution, and then they'll let us do it. However, the second part of it is they are requesting no parking at all times. So they're asking you to amend your ordinance to include this road, no parking on here.
so can we put a private road on our list?
I don't know that we have had any other private roads. I'd have to actually take a look at that.
I'm just worried of all the aggravation we had with Hull Terrace,
Yeah.
that this is gonna become the new Hull Terrace.
Well,
Couldn't the HOA just do that by their
What's that?
bylaws? Because our Title 39 enforcement is strictly for parking.
Mm-hmm.
If you're illegally parked, you can't get a car even by.
I'd have to look at whether we've done, I don't think we've done anything like this on private roads in terms of parking.
Okay.
We don't really regulate parking. Motor vehicle violations, yes, but parking, no.
Well, from reading the letter, it seems like if somebody parks on Rose Court, it blocks the whole
Yeah.
road. So they
It would.
need to have the ability to call the police and say, hey, come
Right.
ticket and tow this car.
Right.
Maybe they should have made the street wide.
I can't answer that.
I understand that. It was a rhetorical
We can't
question.
remember, these things are done by an agreement between the municipality and the HOA. Could we just do it that way? Resolution followed by an agreement?
Let me take a look at that, let me take a look at that.
Might be the easier way.
The validity of a state ticket for a violation, let me just take a look at that, all right?
All right, so you'll get back to us, Ken, on that one? Okay, thank you. Under financials, Mr. Tovo, you had a forensic accountant review engagement letter?
I do not.
Mr. Bruno, I'm sorry. I'm looking at you, Bob. I'm looking at the wrong Bob. You had the forensic accountant, Bob, you want it on the agenda?
Yeah, but we put money in the budget, and I made several phone calls. I got a recommendation, and also got a letter, engagement letter from this firm here. And I would like to begin the process, especially based upon what the audit said in conversations tonight. I think we need to start looking at what's happening with our books and records. So I put it on, I think you said council had to approve it, I'm not really sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to go out to bid for this? Do we have to issue a request for proposals? Since it's a professional service, Ken, do we have to go out to bid?
Well, it's $10,000, so I mean, is it all the $10,000, I mean, how much?
Well, all we budgeted is, how much
No.
do we
I
budget?
mean, is it limited, you're limiting the amount?
This is a,
Yes.
this says it's a retainer
Yeah, it does say-
$10,000.
It does say it's a retainer.
It's $10,000.
as payment toward.
Right, that's what it will be.
final
No, it'll be a $10,000 payment.
Well, that's not how
It doesn't say that.
Okay, so that's what it will be, but why do we have to go out to bid if it's 10,000?
I don't think we do.
Right, I don't think we do either.
And it's a professional service, so it goes, because it's a professional service, you can circumvent that, as we do with
Well, we could
all
do
of our
that.
professional services
Right,
today,
correct.
for the majority, I think.
Yeah.
So there's an exclusion in the bidding contract, in the bidding law.
So gentlemen, if Mr. Bruno is saying that this is not a retainer, this is I guess, well, Mr. Bruno, you get us a revision to
I
this
will get you
letter?
a revision to the letter.
So do I have a motion on council to approve this?
Motion.
Second. Pending the proper documentation.
Yeah.
We're gonna roll call it now.
All right, so Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Capio?
Yes.
Councilman Klein?
No.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
No.
We've had an audit, I don't see any point.
So it passed? Did you read the audit?
Yes,
You ought to read it again.
I did.
Did you listen to tonight's conversation?
Yes, I did.
You ought to review the tapes. So
Thank
did
you
this
for your
pass?
advice.
You
Does this
welcome.
pass, Ken?
Yeah, 301, okay, thank you.
It never hurts to get another set of eyes.
No, I agree.
It's a waste of the taxpayers' money.
It's a lot of waste of taxpayers' money, giving raises out to people and bonuses. You
You're not
want to
gonna find
continue?
anything besides
All right,
what you told
gentlemen.
We can continue.
It's passed, and
Yep, thank you.
we all voted our conscience.
Good.
And we'll find
Number-
the same thing we found in the audit.
Correct. Request Establishment Council Finance Capital Reporting Committee, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, so, I mean, based upon everything that's going on, the council has the ability to establish, I guess, an ad hoc committee. So I would like to establish a Finance Capital Reporting Committee, call it what you will, so we can start tracking all these capital projects and be able to report to the taxpayers what we spent, where we spent, have the proper documentations, the forms.
Isn't that what Mrs. Carnes doing?
I don't know, but I'd like to have a committee to be involved with it.
You track all that, right?
I'm sorry?
You track all those things.
You're tracking grants and capital improvements and how we're,
No, I'm talking about the firehouse, everything, the fees, everything we spent on proper documentation, reporting, the way you would do in any company. So I'd like to
I
have a
think-
committee
I don't
just
think it hurts
go.
to have a finance committee, but that's not my decision.
Huh?
I don't think it hurts to have a finance committee.
Okay, thank you.
You know, pass ideas, brainstorm.
Okay.
Any additional discussion, gentlemen?
Yeah, I just think that, you know, we have quite a few projects. We have a project tracker. There are a number of big projects that are coming up. I think that, you know, we've had a number of meetings with our bond counsel. We had a number of meetings with our auditor, the prior auditor, and I think if, you know, we need to increase the visibility. I'm not going to say transparency because we have audits. There's a lot of information out there. I just don't think that it is, in my opinion, it is presented in a way that is visible to the townspeople and even to us on the dais. I mean, you know, I
Well,
pulled
we're getting
out,
the year-to-date financials on a monthly basis from Mrs. Curran, which we've never gotten in the history on this dais. I believe nobody's ever gotten that. So she is making, you know, leaps and bounds on this information to us. And I think to introduce another level of oversight right now, I think you got to give her the ability to do her job. I mean, she's responsible for the money. I mean, Judy has the license. The buck stops with her, and I think that's why we hired her, or we hired, you know, anybody in this position would have to come with the licensing and hopefully the knowledge that she has to do the job. I know we have a lot of projects, and, you know, between, you know, the professionals that are involved, you know, I don't see the need for this. That's
Okay.
just that's my opinion.
so I would think that we should have, for each ordinance that we've passed, we should have a report that's provided, that what the ordinance that's been passed, what's been approved, what's been funded, what's been spent, you know, dates, projects.
Drawdowns on it?
Drawdowns on it. You know, today, do you know how, I mean, you probably do, but I don't know if everyone knows how much of the 400K that was approved for the firehouse has been drawn down or paid out. And, you know, you would have to go through multiple billing reports to get that information. I think if you looked at the year-to-date financials, it may be year-to-date, but it's not project-to-date. So, you know, we just approved the consolidation of bonds and notes. July 12th, 1999, we have $18,000 remaining. Anyone want to venture to guess what that was for? We could open it up to the public. Anyone want to guess July 1999, what the $18,000 was for? So I do not doubt that Judy has been doing yeoman's work, pulling her weight and the weight of others, and we have increased the visibility and transparency. That doesn't mean that there is not other work to be done. I think that
That's a fair statement, but
Can I just jump in with a question? I'm just trying to figure this out. So what is the committee supposed to, first of all, what is the committee supposed to do? I mean, it's good to talk about all these things, and I think that Mike is right. There's been a tremendous amount of reporting and re-reporting, and Judy doing a lot of things and stuff like that. But I mean, what is you say you want a committee, and that's okay, but the committee can't get involved being the administration, that you know. All it can do is it can report back to the council.
Sure.
But that's all it can do. There's nothing
We're not
else.
looking to run the town. We want to be able to look at things, properly set
You can
things up,
certainly look at things.
and report back to the council in a manner that we all understand.
But we do that now, Bob. You do that now.
Well, no, Ken asked the question, so I'm answering it.
Mike, if I
So
can make...
I don't understand why there's such a resistance to have a committee, to track capital projects where we're going to be spending multi-million dollars in the next 2 years.
You could certainly have committees to do whatever you like, and you can
Thank
track
you.
whatever you like. What I'm just saying is that, and if you want to have a committee to look at things and study things, there's nothing wrong with it, and they can report back to you. But I just wanted to make sure you start getting involved in the CFO's job or the administrator's job or
Not getting
that kind
involved
of
in their
stuff.
job. I think
That's all I'm just asking
it's
about.
very clear as to what I'm trying to get at. I'm not getting involved in their job at all.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I think
I
that,
don't see why there's
again,
such resistance again.
there was, at one point, I believe, Mrs. Grow even started compiling, I think she had a binder of each of the bond ordinances or financing ordinances with general ledgers and support. So you could tell, and, you know, it took 4 years, maybe more, to cancel some of these ordinances because we didn't know what was in it. So if there are additional hands that can take basic financial information and make it usable to the council so they can evaluate more readily and with more clarity what's going on, because again, you know, all of us just voted to dump, not to dump, all of us voted to bond $7.2 million. And again, I challenge anyone, if I pick any one of these ordinances, what is it? And, you know, if I went and I said to Ms. Curran, or I went and said it to Mr. Tovo, you know, what is that? I think it would take some time to figure it out. And so that would be my support of doing something.
Mike, you brought up the 400,000, and I know because I'm tracking it more than others, but any one of us up here could track that 400,000 if we're that interested in it. The only reason, but once we approve the 400, how you get to the 400 is you've approved the 400 already.
But don't you want to know
No,
what
no,
you've
but what I'm
spent?
saying is if we approve 400 for professional services,
Sure.
right, we'll stick with your $400,000 number, right? Until I get to 380,000 and somebody comes to me and says, hey, we're gonna go over 400, then the bells and whistles should go off in our heads. But we should be looking at it and asking the questions as it approaches the 380, like, are we on budget, are we not on budget? You know, as a council member, I don't need somebody to tell me that. I could figure that out myself. I
Now,
mean,
did you know you spent over in lacrosse?
yes.
I didn't.
We said that last year, we overspent.
No, we got the report today. We spent $12,000 more than we should have. I didn't,
Yeah.
I must have missed that.
But that's what I'm saying. Judy's doing her job. She got us the
But you
report.
just said, when it gets to a certain point, you want to know. We overspent what we put in the budget. We didn't know.
But it
So
just
that
came out in this
contradicts
report.
what you said.
No, but Bob, it just
But I
got
guess-
overspent.
I guess-
No, Bob, listen,
it's very
it just got
simple.
overspent. It just
Mike,
got
just-
overspent. Hold on, gentlemen,
I
wait.
just don't
It just got
understand.
overspent in the previous report. So going back to your statement, Bob, in the previous report, lacrosse wasn't overspent.
So who told us that it was going to be overspent?
But if you looked at the number, it was
But
close.
who said it was going to be
This
overspent?
last statement that Judy
So-
gave us.
But you just said, when it gets to 380, you want to raise a flag. We went over it. We didn't even.
But
get
you
to-
raised the flag today, right? Because you found out
we
when you
didn't
got the
even go
report
over it.
Friday.
Right. I don't know why there's such resistance to do this. I really don't. I mean, to me, it's just.
Well,
I just don't see the need for, that's my opinion. So if the request is, Mr.
The only thing, this is the only point that I'm trying to make, okay? So you can have as many committees as you like,
Right.
and they can do whatever you like to do.
Good.
But if you expect the committee to have access to the administrative employees and tell them what to do and start getting information from them, then there's going to be some issues, because the administration runs the administration, reports to the council in the
I'm not
administration
dealing
form.
with the
I'm just talking.
okay, so then, you know
I'm
what?
not dealing with the employees.
We don't have to.
Yeah.
What we don't have to go forward with this. We'll just, you know, as a council or as an individual, I can Oprah any of that.
Of course.
And I can,
You don't need to open
You don't
it.
have- you don't need to
You
open
don't
it.
have
You
to
can
open
ask
it.
for
we just, he just said we did.
No,
No,
We
you
don't
said
have
you gotta ask.
access, wait, wait, hold on.
Might I jump in for
What I-
1 minute?
what I-
Hold on, let
Hold
Mr.
on.
Alderman finish.
No.
Let me clarify. No, what
No,
I
you
said-
just said, we can't tell the administration what to do, and we can't ask the administration or individuals within the administration for information.
No. I said the committee cannot sit down with the CFO and start having conferences. This is what I'm talking about, okay? Maybe I'm talking over here and you're talking over here. Information, you could have 100% information and should. Whatever you want, you should get, no question. All I'm saying is that I just don't want somebody to be under the impression that if you name a two-person committee, and they say, listen, Chief Executive or Chief Financial Officer, we'd like to meet you on Wednesday and bring with you all the books and records and all those ordinances, and we're all going to sit and we're going to go over this and find out things from you. That's not going to work. That doesn't work that way. That's not the way the government works. The government can work that if you want information, and you don't have to Oprah it, you just ask for it. You're a council person, so you ask for it. Make a list of all the things you want, and you do it at council meetings. You can do it even out of council meetings. Make a list of all the things you want. A list of this, a list of that. I mean, you've changed.
And I
you've changed project trackers. You've changed reporting. You've changed a million things since I've seen how you operate. So if you want more information, you could do that too. I just want to be clear that when you start to say, let's have a committee. So my concern is, okay, what's the committee? What's the charge of the committee? What is the power of the committee? So I just want to get that kind of out there. That's from my point of view. All the other stuff about the information, it's yours. It's all your information.
Like, I think, most of the questions that are asked on this conference agenda, I try to get, like, Bob asked a very vague question about emails, and I was able to ask for the information. We got it right away of all the email addresses that's in everybody's packet and how they're accessed or not accessed any longer. And typically, whatever the gentleman on the dais asked for, Sue's able to ask the right people and get it for us with no obstruction. So, again, you never have to Oprah anything, Mike, if you go through the proper channel.
My feeling is that, I don't like building another layer of, it's basically a government entity you're overseeing, so you're adding more fuel. I like it very streamlined, right, from our administration. You can get the information, all we have to do is ask for it. And we can track stuff pretty well. So at this point, I would not be in favor of doing this. It's just another layer. And I understand Mr. Ullman's point, you want to be as transparent as possible, but I think that's part of our job, is to find that information out and, convey it to our constituents, what's going on. And again, I think we can do that a lot better because we have immediate access to that information. We've been in the game a little bit, we can analyze it, and if people have questions, you want to make a statement on how these projects are going, I think we're probably best suited for doing that. And we could still have a committee within the council. If me and Bob want to have a committee on doing it, we could work together on, let's just say, the firehouse or whatever, present that information. I think that might be a little bit easier for everyone involved.
I think, even
That's
the whole rec thing, with the lacrosse. And last year, Bob, we wouldn't have found out of that overage until budget time. So just by having Judy provide us those year-to-dates on a monthly basis,
I think the whole point is being missed, what I'm trying to get to. I mean, I think everyone feels I'm trying to go after something that I'm not. It's just the reporting. You do this in any big company. You have capital projects, and in any big company, you build a file, you build a folder, you report, things get approved, you put it in, you know what you spent. It's just tracking. I think the reality is you have one person right now as a CFO who's bombarded with 10, 15 years worth of nonsense, who's trying to dig herself out of a hole that'll never happen within the next year. So this is just, to help, and the CFO said it doesn't hurt to have a finance committee. That came from her, not from me. So that's my opinion.
Mr. Bunny?
I mean, I could ask for all the information I want, but then, Judy will be bombarded. But if that's what you guys want, that's fine.
I think this is another layer of supervision of the new CFO, who has barely got her feet on the ground, and I think it's politically motivated, and I do not think it needs to happen at all.
First of all, there's no political motivation, so you
Oh,
you
no,
can just...
oh,
put it out
no,
at that.
oh, no.
You don't know what you're
Never,
talking about.
never from you.
You don't know what
Never,
you're
ever.
No, it hasn't been. I've been on here 4 years, there's no political motivation. So if you don't know what you're talking about, then don't say it. Thank you.
Mr. Ullman, anything else?
No, I said my piece, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, you wanted to make a statement?
Yes, thank you. Let me say, we've always been transparent, and any information that's been asked for has been provided. I'd like to suggest that, instead of creating a committee, if the council can come up with, let's say, the format of a spreadsheet, where, let's say, each different sheet is an ordinance, and there's 4 or 5 columns within that spreadsheet that says, as things are being drawn down, we're not looking to reinvent the wheel here. That would be easy enough. I don't, my opinion, I don't see the reason for a committee if we give that information to the whole council. The one thing I would ask is, you come up with the information you want, work it through the administration. We'll work with Judy on it. We'll see from her if there's enough staffing to do it, if it's going to take an hour a week, 10 hours a week, and then we get back to you. But, I think that solves everyone's problem. It gets the council what they're looking for without the need for a different committee.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bruno, you had year-to-date financials through August 2019?
We got, thank you.
We had those, okay. Canceled ordinances, the road program?
Yeah, we had canceled some ordinances that we had funded and unused, and some of it was going back into the road program. I just don't know what the process is on how X amount of dollars gets into the road program so that we use, I think it was a couple $100,000. I just don't know what the process is, how that works.
Currently, we're breaking that down by project, identifying some smaller ones because we already have funding to get off our rolls right away. For example, the catch basins that need repair, we're covering them out of the old ordinances. Some of the smaller paving jobs will also be covered from there and be done before the end of 2019, where the rest of the 2019 road program will be done in the spring of 20 because we're running out of weather to get all that done. So we're trying to use the old ordinances first, followed up by the new.
Okay, so it all gets plowed back in somehow. It all gets plowed back in. The money will get plowed back in to be used.
It does. We'll be able to tell you where it's being spent.
I just want to know the process, that's all.
On another note, Mr. Tovo, how are we doing on our road program at this point? What's our schedule like, and where are we?
Well, Boswell seems very confident that we'll have our RFP out in time to get the smaller projects I just identified done before the weather consumes us in 19, with the bulk of the rest of the work being done in spring of 2020, with 2020's road program being done in the fall of 2020, late summer,
So
early
how
fall.
many, just if you know on the top of your head, how many streets will we get done before the winter?
We're shooting for 5.
Shooting for 5, okay? And
And along with that, some smaller municipal parking lots and
okay. And then on the same note, do you know if there's what's the status of Ridgewood and Washington with the county? Any ideas?
as far as the paving goes.
Paving.
They can't even touch paving until the 88 curb cuts are done. They're still telling me the fall that they will be done.
Okay.
So depending on the timing of when that's complete, will there be enough warm weather left to pave it?
Can we try and
I have called.
expedite that?
Yeah, I have multiple calls
Because
out to the contractor.
The residents really want those 2 main roads done as soon as possible.
Understood. We're
Okay.
working.
Okay, thank you.
Number 5 on the financials, a W-9, 1099 issued, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, so when I went back and looked at the last 2 years' financials to try and keep the forensic guy focused, there's checks that are written to Vic Fedini, who I thought he was being paid by commission from JIF. So and I've asked this question year after year. I don't know why we pay checks to him. And if we do, if he's issued a 1099, along with other individuals that we're paying checks to?
I can answer that. I did some research on that, and I did inform Mr. Fedini that he would have to fill out a W-9, and he would be getting a 1099. He does pay insurance on our behalf, but state statute says that if I could check to anyone who's not an LLC or corporation, they must receive a 1099.
I mean, everybody should. So for all these years, he's never had a 1099?
It's going to start having it.
And what is it for? I still don't understand what it's for.
My understanding is that, there's certain policies that JIF does not administer. So he actually is a part of the underwriting process. So he actually goes out and gets those policies. One is for recreation and one is for the volunteer fire and ambulance. So he gets a check and then he in turn pays that policy on our behalf.
You have to have a producer to get the insurance.
But wouldn't we pay the insurance company directly?
You need a producer too, you just can't go to the insurance company.
So is this an LLC we're paying?
Actually, we're paying him and he actually pays the policy.
And you have the policies to match what we pay him?
I did ask for the 2 policies and I did get them. It's the exact amount.
Okay.
You just
Under miscellaneous,
can't speak to the insurance company.
No, I'm just wondering why we give him a check and whether it matches what he's paying. If we give him a check for $1,000, he should give us a policy for $1,000.
that's what Judy's saying, exactly.
I matched them up.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Okay. Under miscellaneous, copies of all summonses issued to Viviano, property amount collected, amount outstanding, Mr. Bruno would ask?
Yeah, this is self-explanatory.
Correct.
You asked this yourself, I
We did ask at the last meeting. We have
Well, to just clarify, I was never asked to compile a report on this. I did have a discussion with the council president regarding this. Obviously, the file on this property is rather large and goes back many years.
Correct.
This year, we've been focused on trying to get the remainder of what's on that property cleaned up. We made substantial progress in the spring with debris cleanup. Had a little bit of fall off in communications as a result of some events within their family where we've been able to regroup recently, and we are scheduled to have, or they are scheduled to have somebody on the property tomorrow to see what it would take to remove the remaining vehicles that are there. So at this point, we expect to have a resolution or a time frame on when they're going to be removed by week's end. If we don't have that information, they've advised that summonses will be issued.
So the time frame, did we give them a time frame to say do it
Yes,
by this date, or we will start issuing summonses? We haven't issued any summonses, I assume, at this point.
Not recently, no. Have we ever? I don't know the answer to that. But they were told we need an answer by the end of the week as far as the schedule for removal of the vehicles.
And then whatever else is, I don't know what else is back there, but it's pretty horrible, so.
Well, they had dumpster in earlier in the year, removed most of what's back there. Our deal has been that once they tell us it's all been remediated, we go in for an inspection to make sure that's the case.
May I suggest that you issue the summonses with a court date at least 2 weeks in the future, and if they do not comply, then you're on your way to court. And that will garner you some notice.
I will have a discussion with our
It's a very successful
enforcement
tactic
officer
I
tomorrow.
previously used.
Okay.
So issue the summonses.
Well, my concern there is our zoning officer telling us, or code enforcement, he's right now getting cooperation, so I don't want to jeopardize the cooperation.
Yeah, this ensures your cooperation.
So I guess my question would be, understanding that they have a right to their private property, and they have the right, I guess, to allow or disallow people on it. But if there is something that's visible from the street, and if you're on Van Emberg and you look down the driveway of their property or the path, there is at least 2 vehicles that are visible. There is a trailer from a tractor trailer with its door up and, rotting something inside. So I guess my question would be, even if we don't have the cooperation of the Vivianos or the owners, If that visible assessment can be made and it's apparent, what do we need their cooperation for?
Well, I'm sure there may be other areas of that property the residents might complain about that we need access to verify there's a violation.
Understood. And there, I'm sure everyone would like, or not everyone, but I'm sure there are individuals who would love for a fine-tooth comb to be gone through that property. If we are not getting that level of access, at a minimum, shouldn't we be able to assess it from the public right away and determine that there's an issue?
We can, but they have invited us on the property.
Okay.
We'd like to keep that door open.
Okay.
No,
No.
no, you cannot.
I have pictures of
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
No, I mean, it's
Dr. Casio?
about, Mr. Tovo will give us something or other, right?
So we'll have something in the upcoming meeting. You had asked for a timeline for DMF and solar remediation, Bob?
Yeah, the soil remediation was 2020, right? I think?
2021.
2021. Okay. I thought it was 2020. So, yeah, I guess then we have some time. I just thought that it was 2020, and that's right around the corner. But
Yep.
I guess we should know what the game plan is and when we're going to start looking at that in 2021, whether it's January, February, summer, I don't know.
You had ambulance deed, commuter parking, status of Seasons parking lot.
Yeah, so this is part of the firehouse situation. So I think Ken was working on the ambulance deed with the old building and the new building. And then the commuter parking in the interim when we do build the firehouse and the status of Seasons parking lot. So we can talk about the deed first.
Okay, so the deed's not a deed. Remember I said there was not going to be a deed, there was going to be a lease.
A lease, okay.
99-year lease.
Yeah, yeah. And so that's just about done.
Okay.
That's a lease into the new building, correct?
New building, correct.
What about the purchase of the old building?
There's no purchase, it's going to be deeded back to you. There's a reversion clause when they leave there, it's yours, and I'll do a recordable document which will reflect that.
Okay.
So I'll take care of the ambulance. Commuter parking,
That's just the commuter parking in Seasons, when we build, where are we going to park? And there was a question of maybe Seasons parking lot, but I think there was a comment about variances. So I don't know what the game plan is here.
I found when we build the firehouse, what's gonna happen with the commuter parking? Is
Yeah.
that what you're asking?
Yeah,
it's got to be relocated somewhere.
but we talked about Seasons lot and variances. Where's that?
Well, Mr. Mayor is working on the
Yeah,
agreements, right?
the owner of Seasons is working with the necessary departments to get approval to put a commuter parking lot there. That's between him and the different agencies. He has just expressed to me that when it comes time, when he gets the right audience, he would need either a written statement from me or me to appear to say that a commuter parking lot is for the public good, because that's, he said, one of the things they look at. If it's for the public good, they give him a little more leeway as to what he can do with, as far as the waterway, either on or behind his property.
Anything else, Mr. Brown? No. Finalized COA?
Is there, I'm sorry, just backing that up, is there a timeline for that, do you know?
I don't want to give one because he hasn't shared one with me, so it would be pure speculation.
Do we have a Plan B if it's not in place, and if the firehouse continues to proceed at the pace it is?
Yes, we are negotiating with one or two other possibilities.
Okay, thank you.
COA finalization, Mr. Bruno, you had a question?
I think Ken said we're meeting next week.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
fine.
Senior citizen parking,
Well, that was up here, whether we ever took care of the seniors that needed parking, did we move the employees on the street and let them park here? I forgot what the...
yes.
Okay.
Parking lot trees, I guess you're talking about the gentleman behind
Yeah. Yep.
Has anything come
Yeah,
to?
I've been working with the homeowner. We're a couple of yards apart as far as the pricing for the solution goes, but he is away for a few weeks, and I asked him to reach out to me when he gets back.
So it is ongoing.
It is.
Is there only one individual that we're remediating, or are we going to remediate the entire?
Only one has asked.
So I would just say that having 3 or 4 trees in front of one lot and everything else barren probably would be an aesthetic.
Well, that's why we have to evaluate the solution to make sure that we're not favoring one over others and can't afford to go further.
Gotcha. Seasonal labor, DMF, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, I mean, leaf season's coming. I don't know if they're starting to hire or when they're going to be hiring the seasonal labor for that. Just a question.
We are. It's been an ongoing effort here. Very difficult to find the seasonals, but I think we're at a point now we've identified 2 with a possible third, and 3 is the ideal number.
Okay. Mr. Bruno, email addresses for former employees or elected officials. I was able to get you a list of all the active email accounts
Yeah.
and
So,
the inactive accounts. So I hope that helped your,
yeah, no, that's
I was
good.
kind
I
of
mean,
playing psychic, but I didn't know what you were looking for.
No, well, if you go to the address and you click on it, all the names pop up, and there's a lot of names that are no longer here. So I was just asking whether or not these emails have been taken off.
What are you clicking on that has names in
When
it?
you go to address, when you go to the address, to instead of just saying, like, if I'm gonna do to Mike, I can go to and then hit the address, and all these names pop up.
It's a drop-down list of all.
Yeah.
But I think it was only the names that are on that
No,
list.
there's others.
Huh.
You can look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm really putting it too.
Okay.
You know, what might be too, is that some of that stuff might be still being forwarded, like for Mary Ann Grove, it could be still going to the administrator, you know, things like that as well, but it's not, yeah.
Just a question.
Okay.
I'll ask.
Is there a, for those employees or elected officials that are no longer, is there a automatic forward to the relevant department head, or is there a out-of-office message that says, no longer here, contact?
Usually goes forward.
Well, I think for the generic ones, like administrator or secretary spots, yes, they're an automatic forward to anyone that took their place.
But the names themselves do not get forwarded, it gets
Right.
closed. So like whoever's left us that had like, you know, a name, Township, Washington, that one's closed. So you get a
They should bounce
non-deliverable,
back.
so it gets bounced back saying not deliverable. I checked that today. I tried one and it bounced back not deliverable.
Okay.
Who'd you try?
You know, my favorite lady.
Your wife worked here?
Yes. Dr. Cassio had asked about the seal coating of the basketball courts at Clark Field.
Did you give them a call, Mr. Tovo, or?
I did. They finally got back to me last week when I was out, so I reached back out to them today. Haven't heard back yet.
Okay, great, thank you.
But just to clarify, Mr. Cassio, we're going to apply that at Memorial. That's going to be a new court.
No, we're doing it at Clark, because Clark needs repair. It's a surface, it's a
It's
seal
just
coat surface.
it's just a surfacing, not a,
Surface.
So it doesn't need to be replaced, just a surface?
Yeah, they'll teach us how to fix the cracks, and apply the material.
Okay.
So it's almost like they're giving us material plus training,
Fine.
so that's what it is. Thank you.
resolution, closed session, resolution number 19-274, potential land acquisition. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's take a 5-minute,
back?
let's take a 5-minute break and then Ricky's gonna come down.
Mike answered we're coming back.
Are we coming
No, we are
back?
not coming back.
Not coming back.